Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at The Blind Beggar of Bethnal Green, written by John Day and Henry Chettle. Or Chettle. Which one is it? I can never remember. Every so often I check and then I forget. And I always play this game of pretending not to say things correctly, but it's sort of backfired on me over time as now I can have no idea how to say anything anymore. It's actually a big problem in my life. But anyway, Blind Beggar of Bethnal Green, which we're starting over 3 sessions to work through. We're going to start with the beginning of the play here and continue on to the end of, this session through to the middle of Act 2. It's a reasonable amount of doubling, so hopefully we're not going to be talking to ourselves too much. And reading today, Bedford, Soldier and Old Strowd is...
That's me, Alan Scott, Suffolk.
Reading Captain Westford and Old Plainsey is...
Steve Longstaffe in the northwest of England.
Reading a Switzar, Gloucester, Kate and Snip is...
Lois Potter in London.
Reading Momford, Servant, Hadland and Swash is...
Briony Sparrow, actor in Lincolnshire.
Reading Luce, Armourer, Lady and Bess is...
Alexandra, sadly not in Bethnal Green.
Reading Sir Robert Vitler and Canbee is...
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu and I'm an author based in Romford.
And reading Young Plainsey, Carter, Cardinal and Tom Strowd is...
Oh, I'm Lynn Freitas, sleepy in the northwestern United States.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions and jumping in if I've messed up the doubling. So, without further ado, we're going to dive into Act 1, Scene 1. Enter Bedford, Sir Robert Westford, Captain Westford, and soldiers.
You peers of England that with awful dread have paced on the green garments of fair France. Yes, cease a while, and give the Frenchmen rest, that they may know whose sovereignty is best, either the dolphins or our royal lords. But what avails our conquests far from home, when civil discords stir uncivil arms? In the King's chamber, London, nay, his court. See, lords, what is written there. My blessed St. Peter, Gloucester is to blame, and Winchester has neither grace nor shame.
Yes, my lord, he is Lord Cardinal's grace.
Lord Cardinal? Marry, fie, he was proud before, but now his hat exalts his proud heart more. But when I come among them, I'll make them know the benefit of peace. Fall out for women, wrangle at a word, the one's protector of a sacred prince, the other made a prince.
Drum afar off.
Among the prelates, though Beaufort basely born, I'll write to them, if with regardless eyes our lines they read, we'll over and cut off their factious head.
About old Plainsey's son, what says your excellency?
Sir Walter's son? Marry, Sir Rob Westford.
And there is a march from afar off.
This drum, I think, marcheth from Amiens. Should be. I sent him for the prisoners.
Enter young Plainsey with drum and soldiers and a Switzar.
Health to your excellence, most gracious regent, Plainsey, long prisoner in Amiens, released by Momford's bounty and your care, requests, before these prisoners be dismissed, this Switzar may be searched. For late last night, I heard a gentleman tell him in Dutch, if he would bear a letter to a lord with whom Villiers has intelligence, he should receive in hand 10 crowns in gold and 30 more when 'twas delivered him.
Who was it promised you so large a reward?
Een volk jonker, dat is de schrijven. Ik doe het voorstel de secretaire to van heer Villiers.
He was the secretary to the governor?
Ja, mijn heer.
Who were they sent unto?
To van Herrn Momford, that is the Grave von Calais, and van Grains. That is den script, den letters what you see then.
To Momford. What should Villiers write to Momford?
Plainsey, is this the plot for Momford's fall?
It is, and be assured that down he shall.
Oh, let me hug thee. Thou hast won my heart.
Forbear, lest the sharp eye of jealousy see by this sudden joy our injury.
When it breaks forth, we'll seem to weep for grief.
Lords, take your places, and Master Plainsey, take your seat, for in this business your desert is great. See, here's a letter sent from Amiens unto Momford.
Oh,
Oh,
Montford?
Momford?
Yes, and if this speak right, Momford betrayed Guynes on Friday night, and means tomorrow, ere the sun be set, to yield up Calais to the enemy.
High heaven forfend it, gracious general. I think that breathes not a more noble spirit in a soldier's breast than noble Momford's.
I'll gage my life Lord Momford will be loyal.
We will be loath to find him otherwise.
And enter Momford.
But here he comes himself, his eyes bewray sorrow, as clouds foreshow a stormy day.
Better success betide my noble lords than hath befallen the miserable Momford.
What hath befallen thee?
Guynes is betrayed.
And when must Calais be surrendered?
Never while Momford hath the charge of it.
Yes, if thou have the charge of it, this night it must be yielded unto false Villiers. There's a large promise of 10,000 marks, your price for Friday's work in yielding Guynes. Know you this hand? Oh, that on silver hairs, after much honour, one in flowering youth should fit so huge a shame as on thine doth.
My lord, lords all, this is conspiracy.
True, conspiracy in thee, but there he stands, that should have brought that letter to thy hands.
This fellow fled from Hans Braemart, the traitor, the Walloon captain that betrayed the lanthorn, and so by consequence the fort of Guynes.
Momford, no more. His free confession hath purchased his pardon. Fellow, stay among our English and expect good pay.
Dank hab, mein Herr. Let Jacob guilt haben und ich will fight with 10,000 devils.
Exit Switzar.
Shall such a one touch Momford's reputation?
These letters and the accident succeeding condemn thee, and thou knowest by law of arms thou meritest death with more than common torture. But thy exceeding valour, often tried, sets open mercy's gate, whose gentle hand leads thee from death, but leaves thee banished from England and the realms and provinces under protection of the English king. Only thy good land and goods thou shalt enjoy, and wherefore from them be still maintained.
My gracious lord,
Thou findest but too much grace.
hear me speak.
No more. We must away to win by force the town thou didst bewray.
And exeunt Bedford, presumably, leaving Momford, Sir Robert, young Plainsey, and Captain Westford on.
Oh, miserable, miserable man.
And falls.
Why do you faint? Why fall you on the ground?
Cousin, arise.
Father, you are my father. The Lady Elizabeth, your noble daughter, is my affied wife. For her sake, rise and stop this tide of woe that drowns your eyes.
Oh, miserable, miserable man. Dishonours, abject, base reproaches, scorn. Why was mine age to this disaster born?
Comfort yourself. Let not condemned despair add to your sorrow more than common care. If you be just, as I suppose you be, no innocence ends not in misery. Kings have had falls, great soldiers overthrown. No riches in this earth is a man's own. He strives, he toils, with many pains he takes it, and in age gets it, in 1 hour forsakes it.
Enter Luce, the laundress, Vitler, Armourer, and Carter.
He's yonder yet. He's disgraced and can do us no more good. Therefore, let every man ask his own. Follow me, sirs. I'll speak to the purpose and stand to it.
Nay, sutler, by your leave, and I'll stand to the best man in the army and have my due before the proudest of you. If I do not, say Luce the laundress is your she-ass to bear for others. I'll venture upon him, let him take it as he will.
Enter soldier. All together now.
Yeah,
Jews
we'll be ruled
will
by
be
them.
ruled by this.
My lord, my noble lord, I'm sorry for your weak estate. I hope for all this to see you up again. Here's 4 poor creatures of us, amongst the rest of Luce, your poor laundress, that have washed you and trimmed you and starched you, and I have done for you, I have done my part with all your company. Here's my bill. Pray see me crossed.
What do I owe thee, woman?
£9, 9 shillings and 9 pence, lord.
There's £10 for thee.
Good noble man, that ever I should see thee thus down.
Your poor Vitler, sir, where your lordship men went as a ticket.
Your Armourer, sir, and please your honour.
Oh, have I not put Carter?
No,
Yes,
my
Lynn.
bad. Your Carter, sir, for carriages.
What owe I thee?
Some 7 marks, and it like ye.
What thee?
£12.
What thee?
About some 20 nobles.
There's £30 amongst you. All I have. The treasurer owes me some 2,000 marks.
Oh, God
God bless ye, sir, and send it.
send it ye.
And exeunt Luce and the rest.
Wherefore stayest thou, my friend? Oh, I know thee now. Thou art not impudent, thou canst not beg. Thou art a soldier, and thy wound-ploughed face hath every furrow filled with falling tears, that arms and honour should be thus disdained. I have no gold to give thee but this chain. I pray thee take it, friend. Thou grievest at me, and I am grieved thy wanton wounds to fee.
By silent prayer my heart's love shall express. Heaven succour you, as you help my distress.
Brother Sir Robert, if you do not scorn Momford's disgraced name, and Master Plainsey, son, I should call ye if all vows be kept, will you vouchsafe to tarry here a while, till I go down unto the treasurer's tent? It may be he will pay me all my due.
Father, I'll wait for you and weep for woe that I have lived to see your overthrow.
Well, I'll stay too, or bear ye company, for your distress doth make my woes abound.
Come, cousin, Captain Westford, walk with me.
Do you good? I'd go, though it be to death.
And they exit, apart from Sir Robert and young Plainsey.
Ha, ha, ha! Gil! I have been ready to burst. Son, pray thee, tell me how thou laidst this plot.
Marry, Sir Robert, thus. When I perceived your great desire for Momford's overthrow, I got intelligence at Amiens how one Beaumart, a captain of Guines Port, offered to sell it to the governor. Having this light, about 2 months since, I willfully was taken prisoner, borne into Amiens, where I was confirmed, and knew the very time of taking of Guines. On Thursday evening, I attired myself like Villiers' secretary Lancelot, came to the prison where the Switzar lay, for I had liberty to walk the town, had my ransom ready sent by Momford, and only tarried for our English drum, that should exchange French prisoners for the English, the Switzar being one that stayed with us.
So, I understand ye. But in the end, how dealt ye with the Switzar for the letter?
I brought it home in secret, gave him charge to give it Momford, with all able speed, promising 30 crowns besides those 10 I gave him, first of noble Momford's bounty. He took me for Villiers' secretary, and now you see the end. Momford's disgraced, and I am unsuspected in the case.
Excellent good. I hug thee, gentle Plainsey.
But tell me, pray, how goes all in England?
Marry, I'll tell thee. Gil, thy father's ward, the Lady Elinor shall be his wife.
The Lady of Gloucester shall not suffer that.
Tut, tut. It's all but talk. It's all but lies. So does the Cardinal make show of love. But tittle, tittle, tattle. All's but talk. He shall have Lady Elinor, no doubt. Say she died childless. There is land for you. You marry with my daughter. She's my heir. Still, Mr. Plainsey, there is land for you. I'll turn out Momford's daughter forth of doors, seize all her goods and lands by a device. Still, Mr. Plainsey, there is land for you.
But how, I pray, what colour have you for it?
Marry, son, thus. About a 12-month since, Momford in trust made me a deed of gift, of all he had, excepting certain land, mortgaged unto a Norfolk man, one Strowd of Harlingy. Now, sir, I am acquainted with an odd consort, one Canbee that doth serve the Cardinal.
Oh, he can cheat, take purses, forge men's hands?
The fame! He raced out that exception and put in the other matter to my liking. So I'll defeat old Strowd, turn out Bess Momford, all shall be mine, and after mine, all thine.
No more, Momford returns.
Enter Momford and Captain Westford.
Captain, you see that men dejected must bear injury. He knows I am exiled and cannot stay, and yet he drives me to a longer day.
There is £100. You shall not choose.
If faith, my noble cousin, I and Plainsey are without money, but send into England. Ye shall not want for £20,000.
Brother Sir Robert, I put trust in you. This ring shall come within a day or two.
I cannot speak for grief.
No more can I. This wind, ere the sun set, will let you see London, that ne'er must be beheld of me. Commend me to my daughter. Love her, Plainsey. Part silent, let your sighs serve for reply.
And they embrace.
Captain, think on Strowd's mortgage, and farewell.
And exeunt everyone apart from Momford.
They shall see London, they shall see my child. But Momford must not, for he is exiled. I am exiled, yet I will England see, and live in England spite of infamy. In some disguise I'll live, perhaps I'll turn beggar, for a beggar's life is best. His diet is in each man's kitchen dressed. But first I'll, like an aged soldier, carry mine own ring to Sir Robert Westford. They say 'tis good to try friends. Him I'll try, though I believe he loved me steadfastly.
And exit Momford and end of scene. So this scene is doing a lot of work. I sort of thought it was good to let it run through because it's doing similar things to plays we've done recently, where there's subterfuge happening that we don't know about until the end of the scene. So we've been here before recently. So yeah, we're in. We've got this. Wars in France. Let's blame everything on Momford. And it all looks pucker, and then we have this interesting little exchange with Momford just to demonstrate to the audience that Momford's actually a great guy. Look at all these. He's determined to pay off any debts to any poorer people below him. Surely he can't be this terrible arch traitor. And then it turns out, no, it was all a terrible plot so that we can seize all his goods and money and undermine some guy called Strowd who we haven't met yet, but I'm sure that will turn up again in a scene or so. And generally setting up Momford as the in the title position of the blind beggar disguise that we're going to go for. Though he's already got another disguise in play, going to pretend to be an aged soldier to test Sir Robert, who he thinks is probably a great guy. We know he isn't a great guy, but he's going to test that proposition, and we'll see where that goes. So this scene is doing an awful lot of stuff. It's throwing a lot of data at us. Thoughts in the room? how is it going for you? Were you confused? Being confused is fine. Lynn?
Yeah, I was confused. And of course, on stage, once you know what's going on, the confusion would be less. But like, for instance, that quick little exchange between Sir Robert and young Plainsey, where, oh, I'm so excited, I'm going to hug you. Like, no, that'll signal that we've got something going on. So that's an aside that the rest of the characters on stage don't acknowledge. So in the staging, it would you get this little hint that there's some kind of conspiracy going on between Robert and Plainsey earlier in the scene. But and you think, oh, we've got drums and colors and things going on. It's about a war, but actually the war doesn't seem to be the primary concern of the play. It's the infighting and the conflict.
Yes, because we could argue nominally this is a history play. It's the reign of Henry VI. There's wars going off in France. Just mentioning the drums, we have 3 cues for the drum. Not necessarily wholly accurately placed. It's very, but we've got it's mentioned 3 times in the script. So the drum, and it's mentioned once that it's afar off, and then it's a march afar off, and so there's this idea that people are approaching. So that these cues are presumably to be at different levels before the actual entry of Plainsey with drum and soldiers, etc. And the Switzar, of course. So and also Alexandra has just mentioned in the chat. Yes, it's also mentioned in the actual dialogue itself. So that there is a series of cues there about what's going on with this drummer. So if there's a drummer in the cast, someone's got to tell them what to do. Other thoughts? Who wants to leap in? Lois.
Well, there have been other plays about the reign of Henry VI, and what this one is doing is clearly happening in another part of the field, another part of the story. Same people are referred to, but they're obviously doing different things.
Well, wars are busy, and there's a lot of hustle going on here while everyone's busy doing other things. Other thoughts? Briony, are you waving, or is your hand just in a sort of vaguely upright position?
Yeah, I just trying to formulate it into a coherent thought. I just really like the way the pace of it so far. Like, we've really hit the ground running, and the information's coming in a nice way. Like you say, like, there's some confusion, but I feel like it's completely safe within the hands of whoever's written this. Like, you're only confused when you're meant to be, and then you've got a couple of scenes later you get the information that you like, when Alexandra asked in the chat about who Gil was, and then a couple of lines later there it is. Like, it's telling you what you need to know when you need to know it, and it just feels like a good pace to set off at.
Yeah. And it has introduced the title of the play quite early on, so we feel like we know where it's going as well, even if we don't know exactly where it's going. We've got we've got disguises, we've got war's always good for excitement, because of course you never know who's going to survive. There's always that possibility. Cannon might just randomly go off, and everything will go horribly wrong for someone random. That's never happened in a play from this period at all. Any other thoughts before we move deeper into the action? Lois?
Well, it's all sort of set up. Clearly, not only is Momford the hero, but he's going to have to clear his name by the end of this play, I imagine, through disguise. And something nice is going to have to happen to his daughter, because something rather nasty is about to happen.
Yeah, and everyone's a bit related as well. We've got nephews and brothers and things. So it's also sort of familial as well. So it's not just random people trying to swindle random other lords. It's there is a sort of family dimension quality to it as well, which is interesting. And making sure those relationships are certainly clear to the actors, if not necessarily whether it matters precisely for the audience. We shall see. Anyway, we will go on with Act 1, Scene 2. So enter Old Plainsey and Lady Elinor.
So Walter Plainsey,
Lady Elinor, you are too strong in this opinion. I yield you are my wardship, and that desire to your revenues more than true heart's love enforced me beg your wardship of the king.
I do believe you, sir, for did you look into my state with an indifferent eye, or love me half as well, so you make show, you would.
Come, I know what you would say. You think I am your foe, because I keep you from private conference with the Duke of Gloucester and his proud uncle, the Lord Cardinal. At divers times have practised sundry plots to steal you from my house.
Your love's but feigned, because you say you love me for my living.
And I say my first love took first life from thence, but since more dear familiarity hath brought forth perfect and true-shapen love. I love you, lady, and you are mine own, mine in possession, and do intend to make you mine by lawful marriage. Then blame me not if, being all my joy and the high-prized jewel of my heart, I overlook you with a wary eye, lest Gloucester or that bastard Cardinal should with their swelling protestations cheat my fair meaning of thy hopeful love.
There's a knock, and enter Gloucester, disguised as a servant.
Sir, here's a servant from the Duke of Gloucester hath brought you letters.
Oh, letters to me? No, thou mistakest. They come to Elinor.
My lord and master greets Sir Walter Plainsey.
I do accept his honourable love with more than mean or ordinary care.
And old Plainsey reads.
Ooh, he doth entreat me to come and speak with him about some certain letters come from France, touching the present fortunes of my son, lately ta'en prisoner by the bloody French. He shall command far more than he entreats.
There's another knock.
How now? Who's that? Which knocks?
Enter servant.
One of the Cardinal's men.
Beat him to come in.
Enter the Cardinal, disguised with letters.
Sir Walter Plainsey, from my Lord Cardinal's Grace of Winchester, I greet thee well, and charge thee without stay to come and answer such obligations as may come by him be laid unto thy charge.
Oh, you should be his sumner by your message.
And if I do not take my mark amiss, thou shouldst be Gloucester's scullion.
How he grew! I am as good a man and better born than upstart Beaufort, the base cardinal.
Sirrah, were thou not in the presence of this lady, whose love my lord doth prize above his life, I'd scorn to take these braves at Gloucester's hands. But much less at thine. Madam, I know I am but Beaufort, and for your love do undergo this scorn.
Then for my love let all these quarrels cease, for fear Sir Walter do discover you.
Hadst thou been servant to the meanest man that breathes in England, being legitimate, I would have borne with thee. But thou to brave me, whose master I esteem as basely one as on thy words, I cannot put it up. For, madam, know that howsoe'er disguised, my name is Gloucester, who holds scorn.
No more. If ever I had interest in your love, show it in silence. That's the Cardinal, who comes disguised, armed with some base resolve to get me hence by foreign violence.
Is it possible that his disguise should meet so just with mine?
'Tis true, he told me all.
Oh. Well, would we were well rid of his company.
Do you but send away Sir Walter Plainsey, let me alone to pack the Cardinal.
What do you
say, Sir Walter?
There is some hidden secret in this message, which Plainsey sounds not. I'll go to them both.
Well, sir, I hope you'll go to Gloucester first.
And why to Gloucester first?
Because he's the better man.
He lies that says it.
Were the Cardinal Beaufort himself apparelled in thy clothes, I'd cross his pate for giving me the lie.
Keep the king's peace, sir.
Sir Walter, so I will. Yet the worst boy that feeds on Gloucester's beef holds it high scorn to pocket up the lie at e'er a summoner's hand that follows Bilford.
Thou durst not speak this in another place.
Yes, here or anywhere, to Beaufort's face, even to his teeth, and I would thou wert he.
Shall I be braved? Oh, I could tear my flesh and eat his heart for this disparagement. I fear he knows me, and to work my shame, he braves me thus before my mistress' face. But, Beaufort, with a shower of patience, or perhaps with a show of patience, lay the rough wind of thy distempered thoughts, for thy vexed soul has ta'en a solemn oath never to kiss comfort till I be revenged.
Gentlemen, howsoever private brawls have set your lords and masters at debate, let my entreat so much prevail with you as in my house to use no violence. And so I pray, rest pleased. For ere I sleep, I do intend to visit both my lords. Wilt please you to walk along for company?
I would, but I must stay an hour or two about some other business in the town.
About my love, you mean? But, Cardinal, here's one will do that business to your hand.
Why then, farewell to you both.
And exit old Plainsey.
Adieu, Sir Walter Plainsey.
Sir Walter.
A word with you, my good Lord Cardinal. Your brother's man seems very quarrelsome, and should you both stay, there might grow some jars, which to prevent, I would entreat your grace to walk before into the spittle fields, whilst with good words I send away this fellow, which done, I'll choose my opportunity, and in the absence of Sir Walter Plainsey, get out and meet you at the orchard gate, and there conclude about some stratagem to make you master of your own desires.
Enough, sweet lady. Sir a horse courser? I'll course you one day for your jadish tricks.
Jade's a fit title for an ass like thee, that canst not kick, but bear all injury.
Exit Cardinal, leaving Gloucester and Lady Elinor.
Come, madam, now let's go. The Cardinal's mad to lose thee thus. Then banish hence all fear. Gloucester is on thy side.
And they exit. Again, we've got a scene where people come on in disguise before we've even met them in their proper form, and it's just like, is the audience supposed to somehow just magically know, or is that, and it's really interesting what this play is doing. I mean, again, it's very engaging, and it's really and we have that lovely little aside thing where it's just going, it is I, Gloucester. This is very low. Alexandra, then Lynn.
I think it works if we don't give any signs to the audience ahead of time. It's just a person in Cardinal livery, a person in Gloucester livery, and then, surprise, one of them draws the lady near them and says, actually, I'm the real dude. And then the other one does the same. And, it's I think it's intentionally done this way, and it makes them more... it gives them both of them a more interesting introduction to the audience. So yeah, I like that, and I do like the sort of I can very much see in my mind's eye the very clear staging of this entire sort of charade, and it feels like a lot of fun. The stuff that they're talking about is potentially very serious, but as an audience, we're still having lots of fun.
Yeah, Lynn.
I was going to say something quite similar that, Briony was saying a moment ago that the audience, or we as readers, know what we need to know when we need to know it. But I was thinking, but not when we want to know it. So we get teased a little bit, and then we have the information to put things together just in time to sort of catch up and follow what's going on, and that can be really kind of fun. I am still a little bit confused, though. Is old Plainsey, in the end, the only one in the room who doesn't know who everybody is? Gloucester and the Cardinal recognize each other, and Elinor, who's married to Gloucester? Is that right?
She will be. I mean, but that's anticipating. Yes.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah.
She's Gloucester's fiance.
No, they're both no.
So old Plainsey is her guardian,
and in love with her.
And he's obviously got his initial designs, and so Gloucester is here to try and arrange a marriage and elopement and things. So it's all very presumptive, and of course you've also got this Cardinal intermingling and stuff going in.
And as for the Gloucester and the Cardinal knowing who each other is, they don't. The Cardinal tells Elinor. Elinor tells Gloucester the other man is the Cardinal. The Cardinal never finds out that the other man is Gloucester.
He suspects it, however.
Yeah.
I think by the end.
Yeah.
Because Gloucester is being so rude in a particular way that it's just got, it implies some sort of knowledge.
Play it that he figures it out. So
because they're drawing on each other as livery men of the Gloucester and the Cardinal, because that's what they do. That's what they do.
It's me. They take off the hat. It's actually me.
Yeah. But yeah, it's dynamic. And I just love old Plainsey's line. Lately tamed prisoner by the bloody French. I mean, it just lands. It lands in a slightly more modern way.
Yeah.
It's doing all sorts of interesting things. Any other thoughts?
Well, just that we're obviously in another disguise play, like Look About You,
Yeah. And there's similarities of tone as well. They're both nominally history plays. They're both throwing disguises, and everybody seems to be at it. It's not just in one scene, we're setting up this guy is going to do disguises as an ongoing actor-y thing. No, it's integrated into the second scene as well with completely two independent disguises. So I think it's disguises having a bit of a moment. I think is fair to say. We've been doing a lot of plays vaguely chronologically, so we're around 1600 now. It's the summer of 1600, I believe. That seems to be what people are doing. That seems to be the in thing. Okay, any other thoughts before we go to Act 1, Scene 3? No. Okay, Act 1, Scene 3. Enter Canbee and Hadland and the Cardinal.
Hurrah, Jack.
What sayest thou, Frank?
How you base rogue, ne'er an M under your girdle. Have I preferred thee to my good Lord Cardinal here, and am I no better than your homespun Frank?
Canbee, let me ne'er take purse again, and I think not but thou and this Tom Tawnycoat here gulls me. Make me your cheat, your gull, your Strowd, your Norfolk dumpling, whom, when you have cheated him out of his satin suit, left naked abed to the mercy of his hostess.
And I damn thee not for thy unbelief. Call Canbee coward? Thinkest thou I would have lost this evening's work but for my noble, my princely Lord Cardinal? No.
That's some reason indeed, but Prince and Cardinal, if thou be, Jack Hadland swears by the bald crown of King Carnifax, the meeting thy greatness this evening has damnified our receipts at least 6 purses.
Be what ye will be both, only be resolute in any quarrel against Gloucester's men, and on mine honour I'll reward ye well.
My lord, and ye were able to give him as much land as would lie between Winchester and Walsingham. He would be your prigger, your prancer, your high lawyer, your
nipper, your foist, your rogue, your cheat, your pander, and your any vile thing that may be. Sblood, the worst that any man can say of me is that I'm a tall thief, and the best that any man can say of thee is that thou art a base rogue and a cheater.
I'll jerk ye for this, ye slave.
Nay, sirs, be friends. Hold, here's gold. But ye do but assist me against Gloucester's life, and I'll reward you better.
Cardinal, Wert thou Cardinal King of the Infernals, wert thou Prince of Grim Tartar Tarmagant and Erebus, I would not shed one drop of the worst dog's blood my Duke of Gloucester keeps for thy mitre, thy million, thy metropolis. Shall I betray his life that saved me from the death of a dog? No, yet. And for my honest friend Frank Canbee's sake, I am content to stand by and give aim at this time.
Enter Gloucester and Lady Elinor.
See where he comes. Two of ye are enough to deal with this one. I'll not meddle with him.
Let's set upon him and kill the slave.
Hast thou betrayed me, coward? Beaufort, no, though I am overmatched, I am not killed.
Enter Old Plainsey, Young Plainsey, Captain Westford and officers.
Keep the king's peace, for shame, my lords.
Come, Canbee, follow me. Plainsey, be sure I'll fit upon your skirts for parting us.
Beaufort, thou mayest befriend him with thy power. Had he not been, thou hadst not breathed this air.
Gloucester, thou wrong'st me. Will withhold St. John's. Look to it, for fear when I get entry, I pull not down that castle o'er thine ears.
Gloucester, to spite thee, I'll keep Elinor and wed her in St. John's, make her my duchess.
Thou wilt abuse her with lascivious lust, as once thou didst the Earl of Flanders' wife, and make her wretched, hoping in thy love.
Oh, your holiness would have her turn a nun, your cloister leman. But he minds thee not. Fellow, whate'er thou art that takest my part, there's 20 crowns. Go prove an honest man.
Here's 40 for thee, Canbee. Kill that slave, as ever thou intendst my love to have.
I will take my time, my lord.
Canbee, come not near me. Thou knowest my ancient order, they die that dare me. But if thou dare meet me, hark in thine ear, disturb not these honourable personages.
Be brief. Appoint the place of meeting. Subito, subito.
At our old hostess's, mad rogue, to make merry, lay a fresh plot to meet the Norfolk gull and be blithe.
Agreed. And I meet thee not, based my good name and chronicle can be for a coward. My lord, I will have a limb of that rogue.
I shall be mindful of thee, Canbee, if thou kill him, base slave. Had not he been Gloucester, Gloucester had died.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, for Momford's fall, and for our brother, the Lord Regent's anger. Let him pull down the pride of Winchester, and Gloucester easily will be appeased.
Humphrey, nor Bedford, nor thyself have power to make Lord Beaufort stoop. Dost thou forget I am a prince and a Plantagenet?
Bastards were never princes in their state.
I am a prince elected by the Pope.
I'll make ye gladly fly to your elector.
First I will see thy death, witless protector.
And they draw again.
Keep the king's peace, my lords.
Look to it, I'll rouse you and your minions out of St. John's ere the week be spent.
Sir, we'll rouse ye. We...
And exit Cardinal and Canbee.
Would never greater care came near my heart. Could I have made my will in my love's sight, this evening had been Beaufort's latest night. But to the purpose now. Sir Walter Plainsey, take no exceptions as you love our favor that Lady Elinor's escaped away.
She escaped away, my lord?
She is. Nay, storm not, for if you do, your anger is in vain. I'll answer any duty for her wardship, so rest yourself content. If you rest quiet, and will confirm your ward to be my wife, I'll send ye within 6 days £6,000, being more than you can get by course of law.
But my lord, how sudden taking hence.
Nay, stand not on terms. Take this, or choose. Send word ye love us, or our loves refuse. Come, Captain Westford, bring us to St. John's.
Exit Gloucester and Captain Westford.
Here's good word when every duke is king. Thus I see power can master anything.
Nay, son, else durst not you and old Sir Robert, being but new come from the dejected father, offer such open wrong to Momford's daughter?
Father, I'll answer you that upon the way. Please you to walk but to Sir Robert Westford.
And enter Momford like a soldier.
Davy, gentlemen, pray, can you tell me whether Sir Robert Westford lie in London or at his summer house?
He lies at Stepney, fellow. Follow us, we'll bring thee thither presently.
And exit Plainsey.
That's Plainsey and his son. I'll follow them and try my brother Westford ere I need. Already have I took a little cottage on Bethnal Green, pretending myself blind. Thither perhaps my gentle child will come, for she is full of charitable alms. But howsoe'er now I shall surely see her, bringing my own seal as a messenger. I'll follow after kind Sir Walter Plainsey and his heroic son, my daughter's joy.
Exit Momford. So yeah, this scene's doing quite a lot of little bits of business going on. We've sort of got a attempted murder thing going on. That sort of stuff doesn't quite go anywhere. There's lots of little sort of edges going on. Thoughts in the room, Briony.
I really, really liked Canbee's exit mid-sentence. I've not, like, almost, you know, like, so he's being dragged out because they're, like, drawing swords on each other and they're not fighting. But, yeah, I just love the fact that he exits mid-sentence as if he's just been bustled out. Like, I don't know if I've seen anything like that before, and I think it's just a clever little thing to do.
Yeah. Other thoughts? Lois.
Yeah, I think, the way this is obviously meant to go is that there are a lot of people setting on Gloucester, and then Hadland has said that he won't attack him because he owes him something and he's too loyal. And I think he must join in or something because, it seems to be a tie at the point when old Plainsey comes in and breaks the fight up. And he thanks Hadland as well. And he wouldn't thank him just for standing there. So he must have been doing something. Yeah. I mean, it sets up something between Hadland and Canbee, who is on, working for Beaufort, the Cardinal.
Other thoughts, Lynn?
Yeah, I'm just a little bit confused about the Canbee Hadland dynamic. I mean, it's not unusual for particularly characters from the sort of the ordinary folk level to have this kind of friendly conflict. They're kind of threatening each other in the beginning. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're genuinely enemies, but they seem to kind of fall out on the opposite sides of the Cardinal Gloucester conflict. It's just kind of hard to tell what's going on there. I mean, the Cardinal seems to be trying to bribe them both to kill Gloucester, but Hadland's like, no, I can't really do that, but I'll turn a blind eye if my friend Canbee here decides to attack him. It's really hard to follow for me.
Yeah, there's something oddly familiar about it all as well. This particular exchange of, when they meet each other, and it's sort of, oh, you're just calling me Frank. Is that, you're not giving me, any other grace? And then Hadland's going off on all of these. It reminds me of something else that we've done from earlier, that this kind of exchange with these kind of people, it feels very familiar. I don't know if anyone remembers that, or whether there is that's just my imagination. Alan.
Yeah, I mean, what struck me to a certain extent is that Hadland and Canbee are to a certain extent playing the broker's men. They're almost comedic villains at the moment. I may be wrong, they may develop in other ways. But the one that I picked up on early on in there, right at the beginning of the scene, was a mention of Strowd, character we haven't yet met. And I wondered whether there was a generic meaning to Strowd that was in there.
Yes, because they do mention in passing, about someone being an easy mark,
Yeah.
and they're using his name almost as an equivalent,
Yeah.
unless, you're Gull, you're Strowd. So there's maybe there's something interesting going on there.
It maybe Country Bumpkin.
Lois.
Well, there is a character called Strowd who's going to appear and who presumably will fit this description. I mean, he must have been very popular because he's named on the title page as, part of the attractions of the play.
Lynn.
I don't know if it's important, but Strode, Strode, is a Welsh surname. Is Strowd supposed to be Welsh? Does that matter?
It's supposed to be Norfolk.
Okay. Oh, no.
So we'll see. We were in the chat. I think Alexandra was bringing up the question of, is Lady Elinor here? Is Lady Elinor on stage? Is she in disguise, or is that just an error of her entrance? Alexandra.
Yes. So the scene not started midway through the scene. There was a stage direction that said, "Enter Gloucester and Elinor," who proceeds to never speak, be spoken about as to what they're going to do to and about her, and then at some point someone says, "She's run away." She has? Oh dear. And it's hilarious because she hasn't got an exit beforehand. So I was just wondering whether you could do it. You could choose to do that with her in disguise and then her sort of slipping away very obviously to the audience and then it being announced. But also it might just be an error. It could just be that she's not there. That would make sense.
Lois.
Yeah, that's probably what's happened. I'm trying to figure out why we keep getting these references to St. John's. I think that might be where she is. I mean, maybe Gloucester's brought her there and lodged her and then come on this way just in time to have all these characters set upon him. I can't figure out why else they're talking about St. John's.
Okay. Alan.
The inference I took on the St. John's thing is that this was a former monastic property which has fallen into the possession of someone other than the Cardinal, and he basically wants it back.
Yeah.
Lots of questions. We don't have to come up with answers now, but it's good to ask them. Any other questions or thoughts? Lynn?
Oh, I was just at the very end of the scene. I'm feeling a little sad for Momford. Because he doesn't seem to know yet that that Walter Plainsey's heroic son is his enemy, who's set him up for monetary gain. And his poor daughter, who, my daughter's joy, she's evidently counting on marrying young Plainsey and loves him. And he's a shit. It's kind of a bummer. I wonder how that's going to work out.
Yeah, but in the sense we know by the nature of his plan that he should be finding out the nature of their shittiness fairly soon. So we can hope that will go well for him in the end. I don't know. Maybe he dies horribly. I don't think that's where the play is going. Alexandra.
I should just like to point out, going back to Elinor for a moment, that old Plainsey is the only one who has declared any sentiment for her so far. Gloucester says to the Cardinal, "To spite thee, I'll keep Elinor and marry her and make her my Duchess." And that's about it. So I'd just like to point out the situation that she's in.
Well, it's not quite that bad. I mean, she and Gloucester were clearly on confiding terms in that earlier scene, which is not how she felt about the Cardinal. And anyway, she clearly can't marry the Cardinal unless he's planning to get some sort of weird dispensation.
Well, it's set in the medieval, so all sorts of shenanigans could occur.
Yeah.
It's
this is
not
Merry England, right.
Yeah, we're not quite in Robin Hood territory, but it's a hop, skip, and a jump at times. Was there anything else I would throw in there? Momford's. He's got himself a little cottage on Bethnal Green. Isn't that nice? A little cottage. That's nice. Yeah. And he's hoping his gentle child will come, and because she's very charitable. It's quite sweet. Briony.
Yeah, considering we're not that far into it, and we've got probably more questions than answers at this point. They're very compelling characters. I care what happens to them. I want to know more about them.
Oh yeah, I meant somebody. I think Alexandra was asking about the M under your girdle. This, I think, is about the third time it's come up, and I am the only person in the world who knows what this means because it's said in Eastward Ho. It means, show respect and call me master, and. I mean, someone says it in Eastward Ho, and there are annotations on it, but I'm always delighted to see it. This is about the third time we've come across it in the play. No one ever says this now, or indeed any version of it, as far as I can see. I don't know any modern version of, please show me some respect, call me Mr., call me, I don't know. But anyway, that's what it means.
So just for clarification, the expression would be the letter M rather than it's an abbreviation that we didn't speak out. It would be an M under your girdle.
I think so, but M for master. So I suppose you could, but it's always put that way, an M under your girdle. So I don't know if that, I mean, there may be more to it. Why would you have, is there anything shaped like an M? But M stands for master, I suppose, when it's written out. So I suppose people would take it that way.
Yeah, whereas today they probably think you're going for a cheeseburger or something. Other franchises are available. It's one of those things, because the moment you said we've brought this up before, okay, oh yeah, we've been here before many times, and it's the fact we've just immediately forgotten. It's just this thing I was going, I knew there was a reason I didn't change it to master when I was going through the script, because the thought occurred to me, and I'm going, there's a reason I'm doing this. I can't remember what it is, but it's somewhere there in the junk DNA of my memory. Any other thoughts before we move on? No, I mean, it's moving at nice pace. I am padding this out a bit because we haven't actually got that much more text left to do. But anyway, we're into Act 2. Act 2, Scene 1. Enter Sir Robert, Kate, his daughter, and Bess, Momford.
Father, you wrong me and my cousin Momford. I marry Plainsey, troth plight unto her. Oh, it's an impious match. I'd rather have than such a marriage bed, a dismal grave.
Use no more words, no tittle-tattle talk. The priest is sent for, Plainsey is a-coming. He shall have you, and you shall have his land.
But for my cousin Bess.
Your cousin beggar, child unto a traitor. Go to, no more. Come, hark a word with me.
Enter old Strowd and Swash.
This is excellent. Stripped of his cloths, his shirt stolen from his back. Why, this exceeds. This is a toy to mock and ape withal.
Nay, by Our Lady, sir, this toy has mocked as well-favoured a youth as your own son.
Oh, gee, there's £10. Go fetch him new cloths.
Nay, sir, he wants no cloths, for he hath a cloak laid on with gold lace, and an embroidered jerkin, and thus he is marching hither like the foreman of a Morris.
Not for 20. Gold lace embroidered? I'll see how he's suited by and by.
I'll tell him so, but pray, mister, let me be at the wedding feast.
And there you'll be hoiting and kissing the wenches, you.
Not I, indeed, master. I never used to kiss any, not I.
You know what complaints was made of you at the last wedding you were at?
I thank you, master. You made me stand in a white sheet for you.
Now, for me, knave. Go to, thou liest. Thou shalt not be there for that lie.
Pray, let me go. There will be all the youth of our parish there, good master.
Well, sir, go your way. But let me hear no ill of ye. You were best.
I warrant ye, master. Thank ye, sir. For our town green, now i' faith.
Go, get ye gone. I fear we shall fall out. But what Sir Robert doth intend?
Exit Swash.
Look to it, pine, pull, weep, sob. It shall be so. Thou shalt be Plainsey's wife, who e'er says no.
Sir Robert, since your cousin is refused by Master Gilbert Plainsey, if she please, if you agree, your cousin Elizabeth shall have Tom Strowd. No ears my hair, no clown, no swad, but held in Norfolk for a lusty lad.
Let her take whom she will, all's one to me.
How say you, lady?
For Plainsey's sake, the name of marriage I have sworn to hate.
Enter old Plainsey and young Plainsey. Momford follows them.
Good morrow, good Sir Walter and son Plainsey. I trust, Sir Walter, Gil hath let you know my purpose for this marriage with my daughter.
He tells me is so resolved, Sir Robert, and in his own power now consists his choice. But be assured, the searching eye of heaven sees every thought of man. Take heed, you two. Answer not for each ill deed and wrong ye do.
Tut, tut, Sir Walter. God and we for that. Speak, Master Plainsey. Let Bess Momford hear how you resolve unto my daughter Catherine.
I come to marry her.
Think upon your vow. See this sad lady. When you went to France, you swore at your return to marry her.
Fair, be content. My mind therein is changed. Her father is disgraced and exiled, and therefore Plainsey's son doth scorn his child.
More from Bess.
Alexandra?
Multiple lines of dialogue from Bess.
Sorry, I think I've lost my place.
Do
Scorn
scorn
his
me.
child.
Yeah.
Do scorn me, leave me, every way abase me. Death will receive me, though you all refuse me.
Nay, good Sir Walter, be not discontent. Son Plainsey, daughter Catherine's, let's confer.
How say you, madam? Will Sir Robert Westford defeat me of the land I have at mortgage? Take away all your jewels and your plate?
He says he will.
Well, let him an he dare. And if he wrong you, lady, come to me.
Wondrous amazement! What doth Momford see, where he most trusted, most in piety?
The chaplain stays. In heaven's name let us in. They shall be married in Bess Momford's sight.
Father, your malice to my cousin Momford, this deed of Plainsey, whom you call my husband, whom I shall never love, never abide, makes me to death and shame become a bride. But shame will quickly from my red cheeks fly, and death will paint them with his ashy dye.
Come, leave prattling. Plainsey, comfort Kate.
Fair love, be frolic, talk no more of death and care. We'll sport, for I am young and thou art fair. Farewell, forsaken turtle, take thy flight to some more abject mate, while Kate and I joys adore.
High heaven, forgive me. Father, have remorse. Let me not thus be hailed to death perforce.
And exit both.
Robert Westford, I mislike this match.
'Tis more than injury. Lady, grieve not you.
No, sir, I am patient.
I pray you go in, Sir Walter.
Yes, I'll go in. But heaven can tell I hate this forced sin.
Exit old Plainsey. Just going to pause there, just to take in the general awfulness of certain people. I think we should just Sir Robert and shush now. Yes, none of the talking. Don't want to hear the talking. Desist. Yeah, there's some pure wine weep, leave prattling, no more words. No, he really enjoys telling Kate to be quiet. Not a nice guy. If we hadn't figured it out by now, he's really ramming it home in this scene. Lynn.
Yeah, Briony was saying something about as briefly sketched as they are, we're kind of caring about these characters, and I agree with that. And this is a great example where the women are very different. Kate is like, I will never love him, and I would rather die. Like, so she's really quite defiant and kind of dramatic, and And Elizabeth, Bess is like, well, I guess I'll just accept my fate and be sad, but you know, I'm a but I will always love my love. So they're very different, but we sort of admire and feel for them both, even though their reaction to this a really undesirable situation is really quite different.
And old Strowd sort of trying to negotiate with Sir Robert, and Sir Robert's just going, I don't care.
That's fine.
Just literally going, no. Who are you again? Oh, right. Briony.
That's it. So Robert's exactly the kind of baddie that we love to hate, and it's just I'm so enjoying this so far. It's artfully, masterfully done. Little touches of things that just are giving a lot more than, you know what I mean. It's like, yeah.
Really, it's a very Alan Rickman part. It has to be said. It makes me a little sad at the moment. Because you've done it so well. Any other thoughts? Otherwise, we'll continue the scene because I paused mid-scene just as a few exits had occurred. So we still have Sir Robert, old Strowd, Bess. Momford has been standing around saying nothing, so something might occur there. So we just had the exit of old Plainsey.
What will you do, Master Strowd?
I scarcely know. Your moods and these affairs do fall out so.
Well, at your pleasure. Go, housewife, get you in.
I will do what you will. Yet ere I go, somewhat on this old man I will bestow. Thou seemst a maimed soldier. Woe is me. I have a little gold, good father. Take it, and here's a diamond. Do not forsake it. My father was a soldier, maimed like thee. Thou in thy limbs, he by viled infamy.
Lass, I like her. She's a Momford right, of noble blood and a true Norfolk breed. Hold thee, good fella. There's 140 pence. A poor yeoman's farce, old Strowd of Arling.
I thank you, sir. I have more than I deserve.
Aye, sir, and more than you shall bear from hence. Come, minx, what jewel did you give this rogue?
I am a soldier, sir. The name of rogue ill fits a man of your respect to give to a poor gentleman, though in distress.
A gentleman? And why a gentleman? Because a soldier? Come, you desperview. Deliver me the jewel or I'll hang thee. Tomorrow is the sessions. I'll make short and shave your gentry shorter by the neck. A gentleman? Come, give me the jewel. What makes your gentry speaking at my gate?
I came from Momford, banished in Brittany. He prays ye by this token you would send 1,000 marks to help him in his need.
Where do you lie, sir?
I lay last night with a blind beggar that hath a little house on Bethnal Green.
He came but yesterday. I heard of him. Beggars keep lodging. Well, I'll hamper him. I know this token and will keep the same, but have no 1,000 marks to maintain rebels.
Base upstart knight, deliver Momford's seal.
Drawing as he speaks.
Or by the honour of a soldier's name, I'll slice thy heart out.
Help me, Mr. Strowd.
What help ye do wrong? Nay, brother rude. Though Momford was exiled, 'twas told me he should have his land's goods.
There, take them. But do you hear me, sirrah? Take heed I catch you not at the blind beggars.
If I should lie there, though you be a justice, I trust to find friends in my just defence.
Hold thee, good fella. It's t'other noble. But a master like thee, that tough old lad.
I thank you, sir. Lady, I'll take my leave.
Commend me to my father, good old man.
I will, and tell him of Sir Robert's wrong.
Do, fellow. Say I scorn his treachery and hope his end will be in misery.
I'll tell him what you say.
Exit Momford.
Father, farewell.
Nay, 'twere best ye pack, beggar with beggar, for ye shall away. Ha, housewife, are you giving diamonds? Do you forget your jewels are all mine? Did not old Westford pay for this attire? But off with it, go in, or either drudge amongst my servants to maintain your state, or pack. Stay not an hour.
You shall not need to bid me pack, for I'll be gone indeed.
Exit Bess.
To steal and hang, or starve and beg. Choose which.
Robert, you do her wrong.
What's that to you? Look to your own affairs. Strowd, you look to have the land at Farnham, aye, and shall,
And will do your worst.
You are too saucy, Strowd.
Too saucy, moody knight. Thou durst not scorn old Strowd break, but cock on thine own hill, thus near thy gate.
I'll meet thee where thou darest, and when thou darest.
I'll say thou art a tall man, and thou dost.
Appoint the place.
There's a new mown field lying by the eastward of a little shed that stands on Bethnal Green.
I know it. That's the shed the soldier lay in. The close is compassed with a quickset, is it not?
The same.
I like it. What's the hour?
'Twixt 1 and 2.
Hold thee, Strowd. There's my hand. I'll meet thee, and I'll make thee know me too.
No more. I'll meet thee. Thou'st call me Jew.
And they exit with unfortunate bit of random anti-Semitism there. We get an interesting alternate descriptions of this little cottage, otherwise known as a shed, by its description there. So I'm interested in actually how established is this particular beggarly establishment that Momford has put himself in. So that's interesting. There's more drawing occurring. There's an awful lot of people drawing swords. Nobody seems to be laying a touch on anyone, but they're all having a go. Bess giving away diamonds. I mean, isn't Bess a good-hearted soul, or really foolish? Bury it somewhere and dig it up later. Seriously, just disinvest this guy who's trying to steal all your inheritance as quickly as you can by hiding it somewhere. Anyway, other thoughts from the room. Who wants to leap in? I'll go to Lois, then Alexandra.
Well, there's a bit right at the beginning of the scene where old Strowd is hearing about, I take it, his son, who seems to have managed to lose quite a lot very quickly of his clothing, and they're going to get more for him. I mean, I think we haven't yet met this guy, but he's being built up, I think.
Yes, we're hearing a lot about Strowds in general, and this Strowd now in particular. So, he... when someone says that, he is my heir, no clown, I'm just sort of going, really? You have to state he's not a clown? That's not looking good. Alexandra.
There were two things. One was I just wanted to bring attention to the curse cut short. So Robert, by the ellipsis, you do her wrong, which is probably an edit because of blasphemy, but nevertheless I love the idea of that being presented as it was with the ellipsis there. And secondly, I found it hilarious when Momford said, I'm staying with a beggar on Bethnal Green, and the response was, oh yes, I've heard of him, he came in the other day, as though everyone is going to have heard of a random beggar taking up lodgings on Bethnal Green and then starting at the lodging house. And it's such a paper-thin disguise.
Well, that's odd too, is that, as Sir Robert says, it's a bit odd for a beggar to have a house. I mean, you expect beggars to be homeless, really.
Yeah, because when they refer to it as a shed, I'm starting to think that it's more a lean-to construction thing against it's actually very simple,
and that makes sense. But then why would this other guy have heard of it?
Well, it's not much happens on Bethnal Green, and it's clear maybe the rest of it is quite green. And when someone starts putting up a temporary structure, then that's obviously a thing. I think Elizabeth was waving, then Alan.
Yeah, I was just laughing at what Alexandra was saying, about how everyone seems to know who this beggar is, and it's like is famous already. He's just got there. You know, he's just arrived at Bethnal Green, but he's already known throughout the land.
Yeah.
I really love this sort of interchange of between Bess and Momford. I thought that was just very sweet. I wasn't expecting it. You're not expecting Bess to have jewels or to have anything left to her name, but the fact that she gives those things to him makes me wonder if she knows who he is.
Yeah, well,
No,
you
she
do
calls
have
him
that.
father, but
Yeah, that ambiguous last
Yeah.
line, which could just be, just
Yeah.
a casual farewell.
Yeah.
And of course, Sir Robert gets to show himself being really evil by going, "I think you'll find that all these jewels are mine. I will, I will meet you. I will fight you." Alan, then Lynn.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's early modern NIMBYism. Beggars taking up residence on the green, lowering the tone of the neighbourhood. Can't possibly have that.
Can't think of the house prices.
Yes, right. Daily excess would go mad.
Yeah. Lynn.
Yeah, going back a bit to the question of Bess and Momford, my interpretation of that would be she does not recognize him. For exactly who he is. She just sort of feels this sort of intuitive tenderness towards him, because playwrights loved that in this period, the sort of blood will out thing, and they love dramatic irony. Her calling him father, which is just a term of respect for an older man, and he's her father literally. Playwrights love that kind of dramatic irony.
Yeah,
so
happens
my
elsewhere.
read on it would be, she doesn't know. She just for some reason feels really tender towards this person. The other thing I was just been thinking about is I wonder what this play is doing with class and status, because Momford's a peer, isn't he? Like an earl or a baron, and he's a good person, and Gloucester, I think, is going to try to be a good person, and he's an earl or a duke. But the Cardinal, he's a bad person, and Sir Robert, he's a bad person. So it's sort of like there's a level where if you find the bad people, but the ordinary people seem to be good people. The Strouds are not anybody special, but old Strowd seems to be kind of a decent fellow. It's like, well, my son will marry her. I've got some property, so she won't be completely left out in the cold. So like the higher levels seem to be good people, and the lower levels seem to be decent people, and these sort of and the knights are the bad guys. I mean, I wonder if that's deliberate or that's just a happen.
Lois, then I'll go to Alexandra and Briony.
Yeah, the one thing that puzzles me actually is that apparently old Strowd and Sir Robert are going to be fighting a duel, and I wouldn't have thought that Sir Robert would consider somebody like Strowd on his level. That's where the class thing puzzles me, because Strowd is obviously pretty wealthy, but he's not an aristocrat, and he's not a knight.
Alexandra.
You can skip me. I put it in the chat. We were on the subject of Bess recognizing Momford.
Well, the viewers at home won't see the chat.
It's no major thing. It's on the previous subject. I was saying it would be really nice if she's just about to start recognizing him under all that disguise, and then that gets interrupted by Sir Robert, Sir Robert, sort of intervening. And I think, given all the disguises and given all this stuff about revealing the secret, but only to some people and people not knowing each other, that we had in the previous scene with Elinor and two people in disguise, I think we're very primed as an audience for exactly that. For almost, but no.
Briony.
Yeah, he's very restrained, especially compared to other early modern stuff that we've seen. As a disguised onlooker of this scene and seeing his daughter treated so badly, and it's not that he doesn't care, because he does have like the one aside, but sometimes these scenes could be just lousy with asides every other line, whereas it's quite restrained. Again, it's this, I don't know, it's this less is more thing that whoever's written this, it's a gentle hand, but they're just achieving so much with it.
Okay, let's read on. Act 2, Scene 2. Enter, we've heard lots about him. Enter Tom Strowd and Swash, his man, Gallant.
London penny call ye it. 'Tis licked me with a witness. I was set on for a reckoning of 40 shillings, and as fair a satin suit the other night as a man shall lightly see in a summer's day. But if e'er it be my fortune to meet with that ill-faced gypsy that stole it, I'll teach him his leer-poop for stealing, whilst he hath a day to live again, so will I. Nay, nothing grieved me, Swash, but that the slave persuaded me to lie naked for fear of the fleas, which when I had done, he stole me away as fair a shirt of my mother's own spinning as a man shall need to put o'er his ears. And sirrah, in the morning, when mine hostess came up to call me, I was as naked as your Norfolk dumpling. As I am a Christian man, I blushed out of all.
Nay, master, I told you at first you should find a sour fellow of that gypsy. I liked him not. He had such a crabtree-faced countenance of his own. But come, my old master sent me for you. You must along to the wedding to...
Why, say you so now? It would make a horse break his bridle to see the humours of these fellows. I know no more how to please him than I know how to build up Paul's steeple. So do not I. But come, Swash, I'll to him.
And interrupted by the entrance of Canbee, Hadland, and Snip.
Tush, man, 'tis he. I know him as well as the beggar knows his dish. 'Tis he that I fetched over for the satin suit, and left him in pawn for the reckoning. He has a fair cloak on his back, and we could get that we were made men.
Be ruled by me, 'tis our own. Do thou take the wall of him. If he take exceptions, I'll draw. If he draws, his cloak falls down.
And all fallings are mine. Sir, let me alone. I know my cue. Strowd, thou hast as good have met the hangman, for thy upper garment's mine.
Canbee takes the wall and jostles Tom Strowd.
What is the matter with you? So feather-eyed ye cannot let us pass in the king's highway?
You must learn to know your duty, and give your betters the wall.
My betters the wall. On what acquaintance? Ye shall be set up, and ye say the word. I'll wash mine hands and wait on you.
What, do you prate? Nay, then, have at you, sir.
And have at you too, then, in faith.
And they fight.
Hold, as you are gentlemen, hold.
Hold me no holds. I'll have another bout with ye, or I'll make your sconce and the post ring noon together. And, Sarah Gypsy, you shall fare the worse for one of your coat's sake that robbed me of a satin suit the other night. And well remembered, where's my cloak, Swash?
Your cloak's a good cloak. Take the wall of my master, ye slave, ye.
I think the fellows be mad. Where's my cloak, man?
Your cloak's a good cloak, and a fair cloak. Quarrel with my master, ye scabs, ye.
I think the fellows from Paul. I ask thee where my cloak is.
Let not a man pass unsearched. The gentleman shall not lose the worth of a mite in my company.
I hope, sir, you will not suspect my boy nor me.
Suspect me no suspects. I am sure my cloak cannot go without hands, and I'll have it again, or I'll hang it out of the coxcombs of some of them, or bang it out of the coxcombs of some of them.
Sir, your mishap lies as near my heart as it had been my own. And cause I see you a resolute tall gentleman, and in respect that I was the occasion of this falling out, my cloak, simple though it be, cost me 40 French crowns. Take it, it is at your service.
40 French crowns, 40 French pins. What dost thou tell me of thy cloak? I scorn to wear e'er a man's cloak under the element but mine own. But I'll tell thee what, and it were not for thy sake, whom I think an honest, kind fellow, and so forth, I'd hang this bacon-faced slave, or thwart of his shanks. He should remember stealing a cloak to doomsday, so he should.
Why, sir, I hope you know no harm by me. Were it in place where I'd say he lied in his throat, but that but touched the very hem of my reputation with reproach.
Wilt say I lie? thou hadst as good eat a load of logs, wert thou. I say no harm by thee, and yet I say that I have seen an honester face than thine hanged. What sayest thou unto it now? And thou beest aggrieved, mend thyself how thou canst, and how thou darest. Dost see now? Nay, Swash, yonder's my father. Say nothing of my cloak, Swash.
And enter old Strowd.
If I live, I'll meet Sir Robert Westford. But first I'll see if I can find my son. And here he is. It's possible my lands.
A jerkin or jacket for Strowd, randomly placed text note.
Should maintain this attire. You prodigal. Where have you got this trash, and whose books are you indebted for it? Pardon me, gentlemen, for being so saucy in your company. It's not for a poor country yeoman's son to flaunt it out thus.
Sir, you may say your pleasure 'tis your son, but thus much I'll assure you, though if he be your son, the chiefest gallants in the land are enamoured with his good parts and valour.
Nay, gentlemen, that much I'll say for him. He's right Norfolk man's metal, all steel. I'm not having used his bravery. Time has been when as a Norfolk yeoman that might dispense 500 mark a year should wear such cloth as this sheep's russet grey. And for my son shall be no precedent to break those orders. Come off with this trash. You bought gentility that fits on thee like peacock's feathers cocked upon a raven. True-born country gentlemen wear gentry's robes, and yeoman country seeming liveries.
You'd have the calf with a white face, I think. I am sure yonder's old Sim John's son of Shodenthorpe, that wears his great gall gaskins of the swash fashion, with 8 or 10 gold laces at the side, and yet, without boast be it spoken, you are more in the king's books than he. And pay more Scot, and a lot fair deal, so you do.
He's a desperate castaway like thee, and wrongs his father's credit and his own. The son's descent no better than the father's. Why should their clothes be richer? I'm as proud and think myself as gallant in this grey, have my table furnished with good beef, Norfolk team's bread, and country homebred drink, as he that goeth in rattling taffety. Let gentlemen go gallant, what care I? I was a yeoman born, and so I'll die. Then if thou beest my son, be of my mind. Waste less in rags and spend more in thine house. Or if thou hast no house to spend it in,
Go to a bawdy house, master.
thou knave, to a bawdy house? No, sirrah, no. Give it maimed soldiers, poor helpless widows. Off with this trash, on with this seemly weed. Be not Stroud's shadow, but be Strowd indeed.
Come hither, Swash. There is no remedy. I must give the old man good words and speak him fair. And if I should die, he should die tomorrow next, as God forbid, but he should. He might defeat me of all his land.
You say true, master. Come, on with this jerkin. So, now, young master, you look like yourself, like my master's son.
Son, what are these that keep you company?
A couple of honest, proper gentlemen they seem to be. But all's one to you. I must keep company with none but a sort of moans and hoydens that know not chalk from cheese, and can talk of nothing but how they sell a score of cowhides at Lynn Marty, and what price peas and barley bears at Bedford market.
And still consort thee with these gentlemen. I like the carriage of them passing well.
Aye, a murrain on them. They have carried away my cloak amongst them.
But let that pass.
Aye, sir, 'tis past and gone too.
Come along with me to Mile End to my lodging. Must talk a couple of cold words with Sir Robert Westford. Go Swash, for and sell me a bay nag. Perhaps I'll ride a mile or two tonight. Kind gentlemen, I'm somewhat troublesome to press this rudely into your company. Come, gentlemen, I congratulate your loves and your kind favours used unto my son.
and exit Strowd.
And we live, we'll make him spend your living. Come, Jack, let's go. Where's Snip?
Oh, sir, at my sweet boss the broker's. Ne'er fear it, there's a sure dandino. She cuts it out in hose and jerkins. She is an honest dealer. You're privy taker and you're sure concealer.
Let's to it, and turn again to meet this gull. We'll fleece him and his bags were they ne'er so full.
And they exit. There's quite a lot going on in this scene that isn't quite clear. So yeah, we've got a con and a provocation going on here, setting up things and stuff to do with clothing. Precisely how that all plays out, I'm not quite sure. I've got the sort of bones of it, but the detail is eluding me. Alan.
I think actually there's just one missing stage direction, because the altercation with Tom Strowd starts with Canbee and Hadland and Snip, and Snip then disappears from the scene. So I think there's just a missing stage direction. Snip exits sharpish with cloak.
Oh, okay.
You know, legs it off while he's distracted.
And it's the way that Swash is constantly going, "You've got a lovely cloak," and change the subject. Cloaks, it's a very well-made cloak. It's very fine material. Lois.
Yeah, it's because Swash wants to fight these guys. I mean, he gets carried away with trying to join the fight. And, you can't insult my master. And so he just keeps saying any old thing about the cloak. But it's clear what's happened to the cloak at the end, because it's been taken to a woman who will cut it up and make something else out of it.
Yes, they asked the question.
She's actually removed it.
Well, they asked the question at the end of the scene, where's Snip? And of which we're all probably going, hang on, there was no indication of where Snip is yet. So, with cloak, I make a note. But then also the way that they're gulling Tom, the extension of that gulling, because to say how they're sort of setting up in this ongoing con thing, and drawing old Strowd into this universe of the play that they're making here. So there's quite a lot of business as to how they're convincing, how they're laying the convincer out, which is I feel that this whole scene needs actually quite a lot of work on it to really make it flow, because otherwise there's just a lot of words sort of flying at us, and it feels like it's actually a much more dynamic scene than actually it looks on the surface. Other thoughts, Lois?
Well, here's really a lot of the class stuff that Lynn was just talking about. I mean, old Strowd has quite a strong sense of what is appropriate for yeoman and a yeoman's son. Again, it amazes me that if he's only a yeoman, Sir Robert is willing to fight with him. Usually in that situation, people say something scornful and get out of it.
Yes, you don't count. Please go away. Briony, I think, and then Lynn.
Yeah, just this is the first time I've been a little bit confused with this play and what is happening, and I don't know how much of that is the fact that we've doubled up, and a couple of these characters we've just met them and haven't quite had enough yet to know fully who they are as people. Yeah, if you see what I mean. Whereas I think if you were watching this as a production, if the actors knew who they were, then I think that would help with some of this confusion.
Yeah. Lynn, then Alexandra.
Yeah, I think this seems a little bit of a problem. I think partly because it isn't aging as well as some of the rest of the play. This concern with status and this concern with clothing, as we've seen this before, that early modern plays are really interested in clothing and luxurious clothing as a status marker, and we know this from history that they passed waves of sumptuary laws to try to keep people from dressing above their station. So this was definitely sort of a social anxiety, a cultural anxiety about people dressing inappropriate for their place on the great chain of being, right? And that's sort of lost on us now, 400 years later, a bit, I think. So that's a problem. And also, it's a sort of little side trip from the two sort of intrigue plots that we have going on. The Momfords being falsely accused of treason intrigue and the everybody wants to marry Elinor intrigue. And I'm kind of interested in how those are going to go. And this is sort of a little comic interlude, and it's delaying the resolution of those intrigue plots. So it's a little bit of a problem. So it's going to need some attention.
Well, I think it helps that we are utilising as our almost literally our brokers men here the Canbee and Hadland, who we have met already in one of the other plot lines. So at least we're staying with characters that we have met before, as well as introducing new ones. I think it's all, none of this is insuperable, but I think this is a scene that requires attention. Alexandra, then Lois.
I think it's part of what Briony was saying earlier about how compact the writing is, that actually there's a lot of information in the very few lines that happen between sort of entrances and actions that tell us what's happening, but it's not, until you stage it, it's not very easy to gather that, because as soon as Tom Strowd enters, he's complaining about having had a satin suit stolen from him, and then when Canbee, Hadland and Snip enter, they immediately make a plan to get the cloak off him as well. The next thing that happens is Strowd recognizes, just after he's been pushed to the wall, he's been jostled to the wall, he recognizes the man who took away his suit the other day, and then we have this disappearance of Snip, presumably with the cloak. He does say, "Your cloak is mine. Thy upper garment's mine," as the end of his last line. And then there's a lot of, I think also there's a lot of linguistic humor that contemporary audiences would probably find hilarious, that we've just not lost. "I'll hang this bacon-faced slave or thwart his shanks." But the other thing I wanted to point out, which is entirely unrelated to this, is that old Strowd speaks in verse. Everybody else in this entire scene is in prose except for old Strowd, who speaks in verse, and that I'm sure means something. I'm just wondering how that would be conveyed.
And just to say in passing that obviously Tom Strowd, being the weakest character, goeth against the wall, which coincidentally is the title of a play by one of the same authors as this play from the previous season. So I'm not saying it was on his mind or anything, but Lois, then Lynn.
Yeah, I mean, from the point of view of the plot, this is tied in because old Strowd has suggested that Tom Strowd can marry Bess, who would otherwise be in a pretty dire situation with her fiancé having dumped her. And Tom Strowd seems to be depicted as a pretty likable gull. And his relationship with Swash is rather nice, too. Swash seems to be totally loyal, but pretty useless. And there are some quite effective jokes. I mean, toward the end, there's this bit where Strowd says he likes the carriage of these gentlemen, that is Hadland and Canbee, and Tom says, they've carried away my cloak amongst them. And then old Strowd says, but let that pass. And Swash says, it has passed and gone too. I mean, it's like cross-purpose dialogue of the, which can easily go past. But no, I think the scene has a lot of potential, actually.
Lynn.
Yeah, I mean the image of the wall and the person's spatial relation to the wall, it might be a reference to that play, but this is different gestural blocking. This is different. When you push someone to the wall in a military conflict, you give them nowhere to escape, so you kill them or you assault them or whatever. But when people pass each other in the street in a city, the person of the higher status is closer to the architecture because that's further from the muck in the middle of the street. So when you take the wall of somebody, or you give the wall to somebody, that's a status gesture. So when Canbee takes the wall of Tom, he gets closer to the wall and pushes Tom out into the street, into the muck in the street. So it's different.
Well, we hadn't quite decided precisely how it was being utilised in the play Weakest Ghost Against the Wall, so it's sort of it had that sort of that was part of our debate. Anyway, we are into extra time. So, final thoughts from around the room about the play so far. So far, apart from some detail work and maybe minor tweaks, it seems to be going down quite well. But feel free to flag up any issues or thoughts, and just what one does with a play like this. We've managed some extreme doubling with our session, but we seem to have managed to. It seems to have held together reasonably well, and with interesting and exciting parts potentially. Briony, any final thoughts about this particular text?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a diamond in the rough. Like, there's parts that would need a bit of polishing up, but there's some really, really lovely stuff here. And I can't wait to see how it ends. I think what we've seen so far has been nicely light on too much problematic stuff that you can come across with this era. There was a little bit of anti-Semitism that would be easily cut. There was some misogyny, but it was used to a purpose. I'm enjoying it. I can't wait to read the rest.
Yeah, diamond in the rough, given to Momford in disguise, of course, and taken away by Sir Robert. Alexandra, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Briony. The anti-Semitism, the anti-Romanism, those are the sort of things that are easily removable without losing any value or sense or sort of importance in the story. I also agree with the thing that you mentioned earlier about how compact it is in terms of how much it's telling us and how much the story is progressing in very little text, which I always love. And I want to bring up the thing that we mentioned very early on about how distinct these characters are and how sort of clearly contoured they feel, even with very little to them.
Lois, any final thoughts?
No, just that I find it very enjoyable. I think it would be very playable with very few changes, really. And yeah, it's got quite a large cast, all of whom I think are parts worth playing.
Yeah, I mean, even the relatively minor characters, do sort of leap off. You as an actor, I'm sort of going, "Yep, no, I know what to do with that. That's fine. Yeah. Just give me a silly hat, and I'll be off." Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's moving at a good pace. I'm not quite sure which is the A plot, which is the B plot, and where it's going to go. But it's also, I think, one of these ones with quite a lot of physical action in it, which would benefit from a live performance. I think in contrast to a number of the things we've done lately, which do seem to lend themselves more to an audio treatment, this one, I think there is a lot of physicality. I mean, you can see that last scene with Strowd getting hold of his cloak and so on as being quite a set piece of fast-moving action, and as I say, Snip legging it with the stolen goods.
Yeah, and yes, we haven't properly acknowledged that finally there was a fight. Finally, everyone kept drawing their swords, but nobody actually did any fighting. Finally, there is an actual fight, which needs to be choreographed, because it's not just actually two people fighting. It's also somebody else coming up, removing a cloak. That is quite a complicated bit of choreography, potentially. And ideally, should be something that's quite... not just exciting in a sort of fight scene way, but in a is he going to get the cloak? Is he going to get? He got the cloak. He's off, and you almost want the audience to cheer robbery by the end of it, if you do it right.
And it could probably is fisticuffs rather than bladed weapons.
No, I think all sorts of options. Don't make Alexandra sad. Don't make Alexandra cry. Back to Lois.
Yeah, I think there is another fight. I mean, in that scene where they all set upon Gloucester, because it seems to me he's got a line which indicates that they're overwhelming him, and then I would imagine that Hadland comes in at that point and turns the tide, and and then somebody else breaks it up. I think there's quite a bit going on there, actually.
And if there isn't before, there certainly will be by the time we've finished with it.
Right.
I think this is, again, it's not quite in the Robin Hood vein, but like Robin Hood, the opportunity for more fights seems just that's basically what a scene is for. Have we had a fight yet? No. Well, it's time to put one in.
Right. Yeah. Yes, I actually read an article which mentioned that some companies, I think small rep companies, had a character called the Play Saver. And apparently I can't really believe this, but they said his job was to wait in the wings with a sword. And whenever the audience was getting bored, he would rush on the stage and say, "Ha, I know what you would have, but you shall not. Draw and fight."
I don't care if that's true. I want it to happen. I want there's something. Yeah, you have a stock fight. Everybody knows how to defend against this person's choreography, and everyone in the company knows that. And it's just that you send that person on. I like that. Alexandra, you were waving.
I just wanted to say, since we're talking about this, the setup of they're about to fight. No, they're not. They're about to fight. No, they're not. They're about to fight. They fight. It's great. It is one of the things that this play does really well, and not just in terms of action, is the setup and payoff, and occasionally the sort of delayed gratification, or the almost but not really, like we were talking about with recognizing Momford. We've had a bunch of disguises, and we've had a revelation within those disguises, and then the next time we see a person in disguise, it could go the same way, but it doesn't. And this sort of the way in which it kind of builds on itself in a very satisfying way. And also, one thing I didn't mention before, which I think is very important to our enjoyment of this play, is that it doesn't presuppose knowledge. You don't need to know anything about the history. You don't need to understand anything about the sumptuary laws. You don't need to, as a modern audience, you don't need the pre-show lecture, which makes it immediately accessible. So, yeah.
And it's dynamic and modern in another way, in the sense that I don't think I've mentioned that, the people keep having their speeches interrupted. There's an awful lot of interrupted. The scene we've just done. Literally, Tom Strowd starts talking, and then Swash talks over him, and then other people enter, and presumably they actually continue talking while Canbee and Hadland and Snip do their little bit. But yeah, there's this interruptions is something that is not always easy to put in plays, so you have to use it sparingly sometimes, depending on how much time you have to do the production. Back to Alan.
Yeah, I've just worked out who the Strouds as a couple remind me of, and that's to a certain extent the Steptoes. The old man who's quite happy with his lot, and basically is quite happy, in homespun and whatever. And the son who has got aspirations well beyond the scope of his intelligence and capability.
Elizabeth, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this one. I love everything that people said about the characters and about how well drawn they are, even though they're kind of sketched. They are they're actors' characters. They're definitely designed to be performed, and they kind of jump off the page. This isn't one that, because usually when we talk about these plays and the final thoughts, we talk about taking the blue pencil to it and like getting rid of all the superfluous elements. This one, apart from the sort of xenophobia, there's not that much to get rid of. I think it's quite a tightly wound play, and I'm enjoying it so far.
Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah, so it's a little complicated. It's a little busy, but I think staged with bodies in space, it would be easier to follow what's going on. And when actors know what the asides are and can deliver them as such, that'll clear some stuff up that was a little confusing here. And it certainly has my attention. I am occasionally confused, but I stay engaged, and I kind of want to know what happens. I mean, you can pretty much count on the everybody loves Elinor plot turning out the way she wants. There was a little hint. Gloucester is her choice, and we, and history tells us that's where she ends up. But what happens to the Cardinal and her the person whose ward she is? Do they get their comeuppance, or do they just sort of kind of fade in the background? So what happens there? And Momford, we can count on being exonerated and restored to favor. But what happens to poor Bess? Does her former fiance have a conversion and come around and they get married after all, or what? So I can sort of predict the large, the conclusion in the large, but I'm really curious about the details. And I think that's a signal that there's a really skillful dramaturgy going on here, that your heart won't be broken in the end, or you're pretty sure, but how exactly does it come out? We don't know.
Yes. Yeah, as Alan was saying, not sure where the A plot and the B plot is. And so we've got a C and a D plot, I think, so far. I mean, there are a lot of things actually moving around in this, and they're all intersecting to a degree as well. We have got characters from different plot strands popping over to say hi to the others. So disentangling that is actually... Yeah, and again, that's why I mentioned the familial relationships as well. There's a lot of these people are related in some way, or they have relationships as well. So, yeah, there's quite a lot to actually figure out and make clear, and deciding what the audience needs to know and what the audience doesn't need to know. Stephen, any final thoughts?
Well, not a lot really. It's quite a bold opening, I think. So I agree with what's been said about it sort of working in a modern way, but what we open with is a kind of a familiar kind of lawlessness, which these kind of warlords who are, ignoring the good of the nation to take swipes at one another. And then in the very next scene, they both turn up in disguise as wooers, and there's this ancient sort of would-be husband, and we're in the sort of Italianate exuberance of a different kind of lawlessness altogether. And that opening, that sort of 15 minutes where they send you in one direction, it's like a feint, and then they send you in another direction. And as Lynn says, it's all very reassuring. It sort of you have this sort of fake Scooby-Doo sort of scary thing at the beginning, but it turns out it's not that scary at all. There's just a kind of benevolent sense, isn't there, that all of this stuff at the beginning, all of this kind of clashing antlers and private warlords is actually going to, in some sense, tamed by the benevolence of the larger society that they find themselves in. And I think that's quite an original start to the play. And so that kind of works also in the sense, if we imagine people who go and see lots of plays and what they'll be expecting, and the way it kind of throws them a little bit. So you can we talk about this quite a lot, don't we? This sort of idea of the repertory, and just trying to kind of do something new. And I really like the way this starts there. That you kind of, it looks like we're in this sort of very, very serious thing, and then actually that it turns out to be the Spanish Inquisition bursting through the door at us.
Yeah, I guess because the opening, you feel like you're in the middle of a history play, and we're off in France, and there's a war and the thing, and then we're back in Bethnal Green, and it all becomes very domestic, and yeah, it's like screen wipe with and mad, and it all goes very not pastoral, but it sort of heads in that sort of direction. Anyway, we are pretty much out of time, though if anyone has any additional final thoughts to throw in, they can. But otherwise, that is it for the first third or so of the play. 2 more sessions to go, and we'll see. We're enjoying it too much, so inevitably the curse of the final session will swoop down and take all the joy away from us. But that's still a little way off. All that remains is thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, and goodbye. Bye. Naked as your Norfolk dumpling.